everybody. For those of you in the PR and comms professional, the book In Pursuit of Reputation by Sujit Patil and Amith Prabhu is probably a familiar title. This book does a deep dive into the intricate world of PR and comms in India, even featuring insights of some of industry's esteemed leaders, including myself. But today, our focus is not on discussing the book, rather it is to explore the journey of writing one, in the hope that we are able to inspire those among you who may have considered but hesitated to put your thoughts into words. And to discuss this, joining me today are none other than Amith and Sujit. Thanks Amith, thanks Sujit for joining today.
Thank you so much for calling us here.
Thanks Nandini, happy to be here.
Amith is the founder trustee of the Promise Foundation, the force behind Praxis, and even that many of you in PR and comms field may have attended. He is a promoter of Reputation Today, a magazine tailored for our profession. Additionally, Amith serves as the founding dean of SCORE, the School of Communications and Reputation. He is a high energy, passionate advocate for the PR and comms fraternity. Sujit, on the other hand, is responsible for the corporate brand and communications at Godrej Industries Limited and associate companies. He is an accredited business communications professional and a 3-time IABC Gold Quill Award winner. Since 2018, he has been listed every single year on Provoke Media's Influence 100, the listing of the world's most influential CCOs and CMOs. So let's start with the book. What was the inspiration behind this pursuit, writing The Pursuit of Reputation?
Amongst many other inspirations, I mean, Amith and I always wanted to do something for the PR profession in terms of giving back what we've learned over the combined 40 years that we've been working in this profession. And we'd been chatting about doing this, but we never found time. And during the lockdown, you know, in one of the calls on the Zoom, we had Ananth Rangaswamy, the late Ananth Rangaswamy. He must be watching us right now, and we are very blessed to have his inputs on the book. He was the one who nudged us actually. He said, you know, kuch to karo, book likho. Lockdown, you've got a lot of time in the evenings. And we said, okay, let's attempt doing something. So Amith and I got together on late night Zoom calls and tried to put something together. Went back to him saying, Anand, this is what we propose, this is what we want to do, you know, and make the book. The first reaction was, you know, nobody's going to buy this kind of a book if you think the way you're thinking right now. And he actually then nudged us in a way that, you know, you need to look at the audience, whom are you writing it for, what's the kind of language that you want to use, what's the kind of level you want to put into the book. And that's when the real magic happened. Amith and I went back to the drawing board. We created a complete new, you know, structure, the content list, and that whole process followed. And I think the book is now ready and it's doing pretty well. So we're very happy about it. Thank you, Ananth, wherever he's watching us. It was his nudge. And we say he was the inspiration for us.
And I think what I'm hearing you say is the power of having a mentor, having somebody who actually guides you.
Absolutely.
Is so important.
And when your intentions are right, the mentors just come in from wherever. We never expected Ananth is going to guide us on the book, right, Amith?
Yeah.
I mean, it just
So the background to that was, before Sujit and I got on a call with Ananth, he called me one day randomly, Ananth. He said, why is there no good book on Indian PR and why is no one writing one? I said, I don't know. He said, you should write one. I said, I don't feel like. He said, why? He said, I don't have the motivation. I said, I'll motivate you. 2 days later, Sujit calls me, completely not connected, and says something about books in PR. And he said, we should write a book on PR. I said, I can't believe you're saying this. Did Ananth call? He says, no. I said, Ananth called me 2 days ago, and it was like very weird to see these two things happening. And then we did the Zoom call with Ananth a couple of days later. It was Jan-Feb of 2021. We were done with one severe set of lockdown and all that in 2020. Yeah. And then it took us a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks to put together what we were thinking of doing. And then we really began writing towards April, May, and then the next variant, Delta, hit us. So things slowed down again, but we wrote between Delta and the end of the year 2021.
Yeah, I guess you managed to get time also in the process.
Yes, yes. All travel had stopped, so all the time it would take to go.
Yeah.
It's a late night baby basically, and it's between the Delta and Omicron that the magic happened.
Yeah. But there is a lot of history initially that you have over there. How did you go about that, and why this
So we need a solid book on PR if people have to take it seriously, and we said a book on Indian PR has never been written with history of Indian PR, and we felt a lot has happened in the Indian PR space post independence and no one documented it. There are some vague things and some write-ups online, Wikipedia. So we spoke to a bunch of people who are in a way pioneers of Indian PR in the early 80s, late 80s and early 90s, and there was some information online. So we said we'll put all that together and even go back pre-independence and say that the greatest PR man India has ever seen was Mahatma Gandhi. We wrote about the Dandi March and the Quit India movement and how that inspired various things that led to PR in the post-independence era as well. So we put all that together and we said that should be the opening chapter for youngsters, for parents of youngsters to understand what PR as a profession is and how it has evolved over the years.
Yeah, it's actually very good context setting, I thought, for the entire thing that is coming later.
Yeah, we felt so too. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, but how did you zero down on what all are the topics that you want to be picking up later?
So Nandani, so once the context was set in terms of what we want to communicate to the right people whom we had identified, which was starting from entry level people to the CEOs and all professionals in between, we said everyone is touched by PR. You know, PR does a job for almost, public relations does a job for almost every profession within an organization. And we said, you know, to make a compelling book which could be accepted as an industry book, it was necessary that we define certain things which are in the correct form, which we believed and were confident that this is the way it needs to be defined, and that helped us a lot. So when we started writing the chapters, we saw the larger good in terms of what is the correct definition, what is that people should speak about when it comes to, say, ESG, or responsible communications or crisis communication. People should differentiate between an incident and a crisis. So we've tried to eliminate that for a lot of youngsters, who would probably jump at an incident and call it a crisis. And the rest is history. I think that's come down into the book very subtly and, in a nice manner. That's what we feel. And I think with the kind of response we're getting for the book, I think we are convinced that.
Yeah, totally. But what are the chapters which are your favorite chapters in the book?
My favorite chapter is the first one for sure, which you brought up earlier, history, because I feel a lot of people have no clue where PR began, and we put that together in the chapter. Yeah. Now people know, like it's youngsters say, hey, I know how PR evolved in India thanks to this book and this chapter. That is one for sure. Officially, he wrote 10, I wrote 10. Then as we evolved the book, we removed 3 chapters out, like 2 we said were being merged. So it ended up with 17 chapters. And I think we know which chapters he and I wrote. The world may not know unless they see our writing and guess it, but we want to tell the world that all chapters were written together by both of us. So that's how it is.
But how was the co-authoring process?
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, like Amith said, we set out, the first step was basically to list out what we want to communicate. So out of it came the list of chapters. And once the chapters were ready, the content, the themes and the names were ready, we divided amongst each other. The process was very simple. I write a chapter, Amith used to critique it. Amith used to write chapters, and Amith's writing style is very curt, specific. I said, thoda usme appeal lana hai. So, that balancing act, we had fights. I mean, healthy fights, real good conversations over Zoom, late night,
we are both difficult people, but anyway.
He's more difficult, I'm not difficult. But yeah, I think our larger purpose was to get the book on time. So I think we had our own, views which we matched together. There was a lot of consensus, a lot of agreement. And I think that worked wonders in terms of, so as we say in public relations and reputation building, the purpose guides you. Our purpose guided us. And it was
really
really
like
fun.
Being brothers from different mothers, where we are difficult people, I said it, and yet we got along very well. We had fights which were peaceful, and we realized that we had a lot of things complementary to each other. Like Sujit said, Sujit will write a sentence in 15 words, I'll write the same in 7 words. And then he would say, no, you need to add more words and make it a little more human. And I would say, no, you need to make it more, he used the word curt, more cut to the point.
Cut is the right word. In fact, we wanted to bring in the human element into the book rather than making it a very dry kind of a thing. So once we wrote all the chapters, we actually went through the chapters and added a layer of humanization to the chapters. So saying that, okay, we picked this nuance at a conference after praxis, or we went to a coffee bar where we had 10 CCOs, which was actually the truth, but we didn't realize that, we had picked it up from there. A live example of a conversation that sets the context, and then we build it up from there saying, all right, if it's necessary, then this is what we can consider. Having a book written by us, even though it's almost 90% of the book is written by us, but that whole sheen to the book, that whole glamour to the book, and the perspective from real known names who are, icons in the profession really helped in terms of, adding value to the book in terms of the narrative. So we had 3 or 4 top people, and these 75 people, Amith had them ready because he runs the list of top communicators, top PR agencies. So
that was one, by the way, youngsters who don't feature in some of the lists. We said it can't be only the older senior people. So we at least have 10 or 15 younger PR professionals who started firms of their own, or young Copcom leaders as well. So it's not just the seniors, the big names, there are names of all kinds.
What I liked about this idea from Amith was, he said at the outset, he said, if we're going to have 80 people writing, those short 400-word, views for the chapter, we should have 50% women in that.
Okay.
And I think that was a challenge for us.
I'm sure.
In terms of getting, but
No,
he was so
our industry,
persuasive.
women are plenty.
Women have too much going on in their lives. They don't have the
Lockdown,
time. So at least 8 women out of the first 10, 2 men said no because of lack of time, but the number of women who said no were more. And we realized why. They were handling things at home. I think men don't do too much at home.
Those were tough times, Nandini. I mean, the lockdown was playing havoc.
It was tougher on women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was actually tougher. But did you give the book for critiquing to anybody else other than each other?
Yeah.
You did?
So, go on, Amith.
So you all may know Pradyuman Maheshwari. We gave him, that's why the book got a little delayed in coming out after. Pradyuman sat on it and we didn't follow up with him. So he took a couple of months. He went through each word. So if there are any spelling mistakes in the book still, don't blame Westlanders, blame Pradyuman Maheshwari. He sat on it.
We love Pradyuman. I mean, the amount of efforts he and his team put in.
Yeah.
I think, so Amith and I wrote it, and then when we felt that, maybe we're getting a blind spot in terms of reading it, because, both of us actually used to read the book every night. When we decided that, okay, we need someone from the industry, from the profession, who's dabbled in journalism as well as communications, that's where Pradyuman entered, and, he went through it, did a lot of grammatical changes, commas in the full stops, and replace
So
some
I
words
think other
probably.
thing important besides the mentor, have somebody
Someone
who's
to
actually
critique
going to
it,
be
Right.
critiquing
And then the publisher said, why did you do that? That's our job. But we said, no, we didn't want to give it to a publisher until we felt at our level somebody had said this looks good to go.
Somebody's from the industry who really gets it.
So he was like, he was one of the few people who was a PR firm CEO many years ago, and he was an editor for many years as well. And so he brought that acumen to the book, and it helped us.
But there would be at times where you were trying to balance between insights and things which are not so flattering for the industry. How did you go about that?
So we had decided we'll speak the truth. So there's some mentions during the book where say, okay, this is an issue with the Indian public relations community, and which needs to be
That
corrected.
actually makes sense. Look at it from both sides.
We can't make it rosy and make it sound
totally,
as if
totally.
everything is hunky-dory. Then we
Agreed.
wouldn't have all these issues with all the people keep discussing.
We didn't write it to make anyone happy.
Yeah.
We wrote this book
Absolutely.
to tell the world that there is a book for PR and you can count on it. And we said it is going to make a difference.
But how difficult was it to get a publisher, considering that you were new at writing books?
It wasn't difficult. At the same time, we didn't want to use influence and connection. So I do a lot of work with publishing houses. I help them with their author promotions in the world of PR as well. We found the most challenging thing to find a title for the book. And though we were told title is not the end of the world, publishers help, we said we want to give it to the publisher with a title. So we had about a dozen plus titles that we were all going back and forth with. And suddenly this again idea hit us, inspired by that famous
Pursuit of
movie.
Happiness.
Yeah. And we said, how about Pursuit of Reputation? Because we were keen from day one, the word reputation should be in the title of the book.
Yeah. So would you advise people, if they have to write book, they should go through an agent?
There's no right and wrong. It's either way. It's like in the PR world, you use the Copcom team reaches out to media, or you use the PR firm. Some work well this way or the other. Literary agents almost like a PR firm.
But you had praxis, you had ways to even let the world know about it, but there'll be many who don't have. So what would you suggest in terms of marketing the book?
I mean, and I'm proud of Amith for this fact, and both of us took an in-principle decision that we won't use any of our public platform. And kudos to Amith for, sticking to that stance of not using his public. He runs 3 or 4 or 5 key platforms. Never did he use.
I told
anyone
Sujit, we can name a session the Pursuit of Reputation. For me, it's a kind of conflict of interest. I'm doing this event for the community and I can't have my book being promoted there on the stage. Giving it away, anybody can come and give us books, it's fine with us, and that was something we did. We did all the marketing before Praxis any which way. So 5 things. 1, build your networks throughout life. Don't wait to do something and then build your network. Second is, don't expect to overnight become the sensation that you expect to be as a book author or whatever. The third thing is, I think the content and the substance in the first couple of days talks for itself. So when people read the first chapters, there was word of mouth, people put on LinkedIn, Twitter. In fact, somebody questioned the cover of the book on LinkedIn, and before we could see it, another lady who didn't even have a connection to the book started fighting our battle with that person on LinkedIn and saying, I think you got the cover wrong. So the cover story is as follows. Sujit has a young daughter who is finishing her college and specializes in design and graphic design. Yeah, so she was given the task by Sujit and I to help us with the design, and simple simple concept that create one icon for each chapter. There were 17, 18 chapters, and we'll see how those icons come to the book cover. And the book cover was inspired by a typewriter, which was the earliest form of using it for communications. No connection to the Godrej typewriters at all. Though some people asked me that question, is it typewriter? We said no. And then on the keys of a typewriter, instead of having all the akshar there, or the letters, we put these 17, 18 icons, if you go closely. So somebody told it's just a typewriter, but there are actually 17 icons designed by
of contemporary communication process. If you see these icons in gold,
icons designed.
These are all representing each of the chapter, and each one of them signifies a process. It's about digital PR or ORM or traditional PR or emotions in PR, or so it's symbolic. And the whole concept that she came out with was, for reputation to be built, you need past, present, and future to be good. So the past represented by the typewriter, the future by the future processes, and current by the regular symbols.
And the fourth and fifth thing, keeping praxis aside, we had these 75 people like yourself in the book, and we felt even if they talk about the book, and many spoke, many said that would be great. And yes, we use some of our connections to tell people, buy it for your employees, and that may not happen to everybody easily. And we had people like Madan Behel, Nitin Mantri, Atul Sharma buying books in bulk to give away to the employees, clients, friends, and others. So that helped a lot as well. So these are a few things to keep in mind. The fifth is not easy for everybody, but the first four anyone can do if you plan it in the long term.
So Sujit, you have a corporate job, and not to take away from the fact that your job also is keeping you, I'm sure, more than 140 hours occupied probably. but writing a book, which is researching, actual writing, editing, reviewing, critiquing, I mean there is so much to it. How did you balance the book writing with the corporate job, which is what many others who would be wanting to do something like this would be?
For us, lockdown really helped. Those 2 years between Omicron and Delta, when the late nights, and I'd shifted my residence from a place which is far away from the office to a place which is walking distance from the office. So daily 2 hours was saved in traveling, and I used to reach home by 8 o'clock. By 9:30 I used to be free literally and thinking about what to do. If your question was how do you, what would be advice to people who are attempting to write a book, I think, the first thing is start writing. Start writing is the first thing. Second and the most important thing is about discipline. If we start to write a book now, we can bang it off in 3 months' time.
Really?
It took 2 years that time.
Okay.
Because we didn't know.
No, it took 2 years because we also took it easy at many times.
Exactly.
And I was of the opinion, and Sujit agreed, that we shouldn't launch the book till the lockdowns are ending. We wanted to have a physical launch. So last year, by the time Omicron was January, by March our book was ready.
So 3 months is like a wow if somebody can write in 3 months, but in this entire writing of the book, what took you the maximum time?
Maximum time for me was getting, like Sujit mentioned earlier, getting the conciseness. Sometimes I wrote a little more than I felt should be in a chapter. I kept a target, like we discussed it earlier. We said those 20 chapters should be about 4,000 words each. Sometimes, and Sujit would go beyond 4, I would be under 4, but I would sometimes edit my own work. I wouldn't rewrite my language, but I would try and rewrite
Make it more concise.
Yeah, concise. So that took me time.
For me, the biggest impediment used to be a writer's blog. I know it exists.
You've just stolen my next question, but anyway.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I was about to ask, did you guys ever face a writer's block?
Oh, majorly. I mean, so I used to get a lot of them. Sometimes I used to come back from the office, think about, tonight I'm going to finish one big chunk of a chapter or something like that, reach home at 7, take a shower, have dinner, get into the room, put on the laptop, start writing, and end up watching Netflix on the TV. Because the issue is, sometimes words just don't occur to you, even if you plan so well. And there's been another side where you suddenly get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and, feel like writing something because your sleep has gone for a toss. You open up a laptop and you just
and the flow
bang
just
off. The
is
flow
there.
just comes in.
Yeah.
And few chapters, one of them being the emotions and creativity in PR. I think I finished that chapter from 2 to 6 on one of the mornings. And that went off so smooth because it was fresh in the mind. But that's not what I recommend to authors. Get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and start writing.
Find your own flow.
Find your own flow. Find your own timing. You know, it's about the ambience. You know,
Totally.
You know what, you know, some good positive things happening around you, and you feel like writing the book, and then you get into the chapter. That works really well. If you plan, I want to finish this chapter tonight, it's never going to happen. At least it doesn't happen with me.
So, what would be few things you would advise aspiring writers, other than what we've already discussed?
I would use the Nike slogan, just do it. If you have a book in you, don't wait for the right moment. Just write your book. You will find the literary agent, you will find the publisher, you will find the audience. But write that book, don't procrastinate and do it.
Just to add to what his point was about, do it. I think, you know, someone we met at the Tata Lit Fest, he said, you know, you just said that, you know, the book was written between Delta and Omicron. So there's a D and a O. So it's more of a do. So I think that's the recommendation. Just do it. I mean, I fully agree with Amith. I mean, if you want to do something, just do it.
Well, with that, let's move on to rapid fire. Some questions as rapid an answer you can give to that. So the pursuit over here has happened. What is going to be the next pursuit?
Well, to build on this and maybe pursue the second part of it, use the rest of the
Rest of the
chapters which
content and
were
add on to it.
pending, and we keep discussing about the future. So we've thought about a few more nuances in this public relations profession that need to be documented well.
Tell me, what was the best advice you got before both of you started writing?
If we keep going back to Ananth Rangaswamy, Anand's advice was, don't write the book to make it a bestseller. Don't write the book to make anybody happy. If you make enemies because the book, doesn't matter. Write what you believe in, write from the heart, write things that are true and honest things. That was the best advice.
I think the best advice that I really cherish from Ananth on that Zoom call, and distinctly, vividly remember as if it's happening right now, his advice was, you know, identify your TG, your target group. Whom are you writing it for? Don't write it for yourself or just to, you know, as he rightly said, to become popular or whatever. Write it for the TG. Keep those people in the mind and then understand. That really changed the whole way we were looking at it.
But tell me, what is that one advice you wish you had got before you started writing?
The whole aspect, as Amith also spoke about, of just doing it. You know, we used to talk about it, and I've spoken about this to so many people, that one day I will write a book, one day, and that one day never comes. I wish somebody had told me that time, just go ahead and do it. If you're so passionate about it, you want to do it. If it's a burning need in your mind, just go ahead and do it.
If we write another book in the future, which we may write in the future, we don't know, I think we will have to do two things. One is to make sure that the book is written keeping in mind a different audience. We have this one, I don't know who that audience is right now, but we knew the audience for this one. Or we write something completely new and fresh for the same audience as well.
But tell me, what are those, say, one or two skills that you think are important before somebody gets into writing, you know, that you should be having?
I think clarity of thought and creativity are skills that everybody should have in any profession. PR and comms people all the more. And if you want to write a book of this kind, completely you should be on top with clarity of thought and creativity, which are two strengths I've developed over the years, and he has them as well. Yeah.
Any skills you want to add to those two?
So I think few skills that could really help a person write a good book is, one is a skill of articulation. Second is about comprehending what the industry needs in terms of, again, it comes from the aspect of thinking from your TG. So we fortunately had that network where we could ask questions and could gauge and pick up nuances which we felt were gaps. So understanding those and trying to fill the gap. It's a product, end of the day. It's trying to fill a gap.
But besides this book, any other book that you would recommend PR comms professionals to be reading?
So my all-time favorite is a very small book. It's Livingston Seagull. You know, it's a very small book. I'll give it. It's about a seagull who's breaking boundaries and trying to challenge the normal tendencies and nuances of the world and trying to set new benchmarks.
I'm going to add two books here that people in any business should read, PR especially. One is a book by Harold Burson, the pioneer of the PR world in the early 40s and 50s. The book is called The Business of Persuasion. The second is the book where I met our literary agent, the book launch, I met the book literary agent. It's called The Big Billion Startup. It's by business journalist Mihir Dalal. The entire book is on Flipkart and how Sachin and Binny Bansal built Flipkart. That book is a pot boiler. When you read that book, you won't want to stop reading. It's a non-stop read.
And then maybe we move to the comms and PR fraternity. Suggestions on how to stay updated with what's happening in the comms world.
Read and meet. Read and meet. Read every day, read stuff happening online, offline, and meet people. I think people should have a structured method of meeting. I say do 4 things. Do an annual meeting, it could be Praxis, it could be some global conference, whatever you want to. Do something quarterly with your profession. I know there are ICG groups and others that do something. 1. Do something monthly. Go to a non-PR, non-comms event monthly, and you can go to so many of these. Go to book launches. And on a weekly or daily basis, meet in smaller groups, do one-on-ones, have lunch with one person every month, and that's it. So do something daily, weekly, not daily, but weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly, and it's easy. Yeah.
Right, for me, it's one single thing, read up. Just simple thing, read up. You've got the internet, you've got
And there is a lot of content.
so much
There's
of content floating around. There's so many platforms. There's Reputation today. There is the Provoke Media site which updates you on what's happening. There's so many polls which keep happening.
What do you think is the future of our profession?
I find it absolutely good. I love the profession. I come from an engineering background. I was thrown into PR and communication serendipity, and I loved the profession. I continued for the last 20 years now. Lockdown has actually brought in the centrality for public relations. You know, the whole reputation of organization is under scrutiny. I mean, it only gives you much more opportunities to build your brand, build reputation. So it's the most exciting phase for corporate communications and PR professionals currently. It's how relevant you want to stay.
Couldn't agree more with you.
It's like a flowing river. Yeah, you can put a take water in a spoon or with a katora, or maybe put a pipeline to it. I mean, I would suggest put a pipeline, draw as much. I'm very bullish about this profession because going forward with the kind of macroeconomic indicators also, reputation is going to be the topmost. 30% of your organization's valuation, I was just reading a big 4K report, 30% of the valuation comes from the kind of reputation you get. And the overall realization by CEOs and the C-suite is also coming to age when they're looking at reputation, goodwill in a different view. So
I think every CEO has to be trained by the CCO to be the Copcom head of the company. And then number 2, and people are doing it subtly or unknowingly are doing it right. And I have 2 examples to give. Anand Mahindra. For me, Anand Mahindra is the world's #1 CCO of Indian origin. He has been allowed to be the CCO by his team, or he chose to do that in a smart way over the years. So he puts the message out, and the reputation of the company is enhanced by doing that. That's one example. In a good way. The other name I won't mention, but you know he's very funny or picking up things from here and there on Twitter. But at the end, the rub-off is on his company. People think that this gentleman is giving that company its name on Twitter. The 2 Indian CEOs on Twitter in a big way. I mentioned Anand Mahindra, the other one you can guess. I asked Dr. Mukund Rajan 7 years ago, why you're on Twitter? Why is Mr. Cyrus Mistry, who's no more, not on Twitter? He says he doesn't believe in it. I said, but your job is to make him believe in it. Yeah. And when the entire battle between Mistry and Tata happened, Cyrus Mistry had no platform to raise his point of view. He was nowhere. And Mr. Ratan Tata was doing it so well with using Twitter in a powerful way, and that was it. So I think it's a job of CCOs to convince your bosses you have no option today to be on social media platforms on LinkedIn or Twitter or X or whatever you call them.
Great. Thank you so much, Sujit, Amith, for joining the discussion today.
Thank you for having us, Nandini. I loved doing this and enjoyed this conversation. I hope people viewing this, listening to this also enjoy it. Yeah.
And we see those hundreds of books that we are talking about.
Of course, I mean, we just, if you know, we're able to inspire maybe 5 youngsters today through this talk, and they write some books tomorrow, or maybe just bring their knowledge to the fore and talk about it, I think our job is done. I think that's the objective.
That's the whole idea of this discussion.
Well,
and
thank you
you
so
both
much.
are an inspiration on that front.
Thank you so much, Nandini, for calling us. Thank you.
Today, we explored the journey of 2 authors, both distinguished members of our PR and comms fraternity. We tried to understand the process, the mindset, and the art of balancing demands of work and the craft of writing. I do hope their valuable insights will inspire you to consider sharing your wealth of experiences from the corporate world with colleagues and the world at large. The power of the written word is immeasurable, and who better than us to know that? In case you are enjoying hearing our conversations on Comms and Conversation, do subscribe to my channel on YouTube, which is mentioned in the description. Thank you for joining me.